All right, welcome everybody. I am going to make some milk chocolate Ranger cookies with Rolos for you. It's been a crazy couple of weeks for all of us, and I wanted to. Originally, I was going to try to do this in one shot, like a Rachel Ray cooking show. I know that Jenny from the block down in FC loves to bring you into her home, but after talking to Chef John Sears, we decided to edit. And I'm one of those guys that likes to share recipes. So if you ever get anything that I make or hear anything about me making, I'll give you the recipe in a second. I don't want to say that I hate people that don't share recipes, but it just, my line is, you didn't invent pound cake. Why don't you share the love? So I'm going to share the love with these milk chocolate chip Ranger cookies with Rolos. So we did a little shot. Since we're going to edit this, you'll see the recipe up. You could follow along. We're going to do it in steps and cut it together so it'll be there for posterity. Anyway, so I've got my ingredients here. A couple things that I like to do personally is I like to have all the dry stuff mixed together. And then as I go to the wet stuff, it's all ready to go. So we're going to do this really quickly. I'm going to grab a knife. So first thing in the bowl, dry ingredients. We got a couple cups of flour. I like to do the little leveling off. This is just regular all-purpose flour. You can use, if you got some other flour that you want to use, you could do that. With baking, obviously, it's not it's going to be a lot of trial and error on these cookies, depending on how you do it. A couple cups of flour, simple. It also, the original recipe called for 2 cups of oatmeal. I just used 1. And I'll tell you that a little later why. But this recipe, and again, this is a cup. It's a liberal cup, obviously. So that's our oatmeal. This recipe came when I worked at the Pacific Athletic Club. There was a bunch of us. We did a big recipe share. We did it for Christmas one time. And this Ranger cookie recipe came to us. 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And then 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And so I started making these Ranger cookies, and my recipe is kind of developed from that time. So 1, 2. So you see it all in there. Quick stir. That'll just make it easier to incorporate a little later. So I took the recipe and started making it. I used to make them with white chocolate and then macadamia nut. So that's another version of this cookie that you could do. And then I would make these milk chocolate chip ones. And Kim Ronberg, shout out to Kim Ronberg, who's an awesome baker if you've ever had her cookie trays. She made these chocolate chip cookies that had caramel in them. And it took me a year to get it out of her. But eventually she just told me, Eddie, I just put Rolos in them. So I was like, I could do that. So that's how these things kind of came to be. All right, so we got our butter, brown sugar, and regular sugar are going to go in next. So a hard pack. Also, you notice I'm wearing the gloves. It's time for the gloves. Normally, I would just wash my hands, but we're doing gloves. So, a cup of sugar, a cup of brown sugar, and butter. So we're going to cream it together. So this will be like the longest. This will take the longest out of everything. Maybe we'll cut this, but I'm going to do it in one shot here. So again, at the Pacific Athletic Club, we would do this recipe swap. And I don't know who had this Ranger cookie recipe. I want to say it could have been Janet King. Janet King might have come up with the Kona banana bread recipe, which I might do. Also, maybe next week, I'll make my grandma's apricot cookies that I give to a lot of clients. Those are pretty labor intensive, and it's be fun to put it on tape. So maybe some of my other family members can come in and make those cookies one time for Christmas that I always make. So the other part about doing this was, if I'm going to make all these cookies, I really didn't want to eat them all. Since we're all kind of locked up, I didn't want to get stuck having to eat 100 cookies. So I called or sent a message to Shannon Carithers, and shout out to Shannon and his folks. Shannon's a nurse in San Francisco, so we're going to deliver these cookies to Shannon's house, and Shannon's going to take them into the hospital for those people that are working so hard for all of us right now. So here's your cream butter. You could do it a little more. A lot of people will do this in a Cuisinart, not a Cuisinart, but a KitchenAid. I don't like to do it that way. Do it by hand. All right, 2 eggs. Whoop, that was good. Notice my egg skills are not fabulous. I'll take that. Chef John Sears is probably laughing at this point, but I'll just crack it. 2 eggs, little shell. Love it. The other thing is, you'll see that I'm liberal with everything sweet. Tablespoon of vanilla. Yeah, that is a little over. All right, now we got our wet mixture going. Again, work this in. And that's pretty much all she wrote. Realistically, at this point, it's almost all over. So now the dry mix with oatmeal and flour, do half. You'll see that I will make a mess, as my wife and my son can attest. I'm not the cleanest cook, but everything comes out. Half. The other half. So for me, I found that getting all this incorporated before you add the Special K, which is kind of the special ingredient in these cookies, is the way to go. So here you see it. Almost done. All right. Cookies are done. Chips are ready. Boom. So again, you can use your hands here if you really want to. I'm using the fork. Some people will put these in a mixer. I'm a little old-fashioned. So now you've got cookie dough. Listen, you could be done right here if you want to. Call it a day. But what makes these Ranger cookies special is Special K. So the original recipe called for 2 cups of oatmeal, 2 cups of flour, 2 cups of Special K. But I found that the Special K is what makes it. I also found that if you overmix the Special K, it's not as good. So we're doing 3 cups, but again, you'll notice liberal. So 3 liberal cups of Special K. Now for this, I will not use the fork. Even though I have gloves, it's a little better if it's wet. I'm gonna knead these in there. So you see, if you can see, just kind of working the Special K in. I want to get it incorporated, but I don't want to lose the integrity of all the Special K. Now, it's really done at this point. So we're going to put it in balls, and then we're going to put the Rolos in it. But the other thing that I found after trial and error is that it's better if it rests for half an hour. So this is going to go in the fridge. I'm going to let it set a little bit, and then we're going to come right back. All right, we are back. So the cookie dough's been in there for about 30 minutes. We actually made 3 batches, so I made 2 more batches. So now I've got a big old bowl of cookie dough. Now this is the interesting part. A couple of things here. You can cook these things on, I don't know what kind of pans you have. I use Cuisinart pans, so here's an example. I also use parchment paper, Costco parchment paper. I don't think I discovered parchment paper until I was about 42 years old. That's how bad I am. But it's a saving grace. Also, I've got racks for the cookies to cool. So here's pretty much the trick to these cookies. So there's a couple ways to do it. You could just grab a handful of cookie dough and grab a Rolo and put them together. I personally like to do it in scoops. So basically, we're taking an ice cream scooper And this has pretty much been a good measure for me. I mean, you could make whatever size cookies you want. They obviously have to be big enough to deal with the Rolo in the middle. But what I've found is one of these scoops makes about 2 cookies. So I'm gonna do, and you'll see how the dough is kind of firmed up a little bit here. So it's better, easier to work with because it's gonna get soft. Ooh, you gotta work with it in your hands. So let me do one more. We'll just do 10. So in theory, this is gonna make 20 cookies. So I'll just take these dough balls, I'm gonna break them in half. See, I changed my gloves. All right. Quickly get this done. So while we were away, I also turned the oven on to 350 degrees. I use a convection bake. That's obviously another thing, you know, how hot your oven needs to be based on the type of pan that you use. All that kind of stuff comes into play. So it's really trial and error. Okay, so now the fun part. So these Rolos, you can buy them like this now. They have the unwrapped version, but these ones were all opened individually. So the easiest way to do this is to stick a dang Rolo on top of every cookie. So one more. So I know I have enough. Now, sometimes you've got a little too much dough in here. Other times you don't. So I'm gonna make this, you notice I just push it in the middle, and then I'm gonna make this dough ball as small as I can make it and still cover the Rolo. So you see it's not there. We're gonna knock this out real quick. And if you need a little extra dough, you just grab it out. So the recipe makes anywhere from like 36 to 40 cookies. It just depends on how liberal you are with these, how much dough. You also, like, listen, if you get a cookie and you realize you don't have enough chocolate chips in there, stick another chocolate chip. One of the things I probably didn't talk about is that I only use Guittard milk chocolate chips. So I feel like they are part of the reason this cookie is so good. Ghirardelli's good, but Guittard is the best. So. Okay, so now that we've put Rolos in all the cookies, again, parchment paper down on these Cuisinart pans. Gonna get them on here. We're gonna do 10 on a pan. Should be good. Real quick. All right, so that's it. I mean, honestly, it's all over but the crying now. So now I have, like I said, double convection ovens. We're just gonna use the one on the top. Put these in. Bottom rack. Top rack. Bake time, 14 minutes. And I'm gonna rotate them after 7. All right, so we're at 7 minutes. It's been about half the time. You kind of see the spread is not too bad on the cookies. They stay pretty thick with this Cuisinart pan. They don't get really flat. That's what we're looking for. So basically with the air, I'm gonna spin them. I found that you get a little bit more of an even bake. You could rotate them on one rack to the other if you wanted. I'm not going to. And that's it. About 7 more minutes. See how it looks? All right, 14 minutes is up. Let's take a look. Yeah, they look good. So here's the last little trick. You can see these, I'm gonna set them here, is to leave them on the pan for a couple minutes. I learned really early on that with the Rolos, if you try to take them when they're too hot on the cookie sheet, the Rolo will just fall out because of the weight of it. So we're gonna leave those on there. You're gonna see those cookies actually get a little darker as they sit there for a couple minutes, and then we'll move them to the cooling racks. All right, 2 minutes is up. You can see that they've gotten a little darker. And then at this point, let me take this off. At this point, I actually just take them, and it's hard to tell. Most of them are pretty smooth. You can kind of feel if the Rolo on the bottom has gotten a little stuck to the cookie sheet. Some are maybe a little softer than others. Maybe this batch could have been another 20 seconds in the oven. All right, so I'm gonna flip one over so you can see it pretty good. That Rolo is in that middle in there somewhere. Let me check out one more. Can't even tell that it's there. Let's see how this one goes. Ah, there you go. Let's see what happens if you're not careful. So these are all great. Put these on the rack. I got 90 minutes worth of bacon to go, but what the hell? We're gonna make some cookies. So that's it. I don't know if you can see these. I'm gonna be careful, but we made 100 of these cookies. So I'm gonna pack them up. These are the first few batches. This was the last batch. Let's take one. Kind of see when you open it up here, got a little caramel. Now these have cooled down a little bit. I actually like them, later that same day, so I try to make them as fresh as we can. We're gonna pack these up, bring them to Shannon. I hope the nurses enjoy them. I hope you learned how to make these cookies. You'll probably see Eli will fire up the actual recipe, either in the credits or up in the beginning of the video. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. Oh yeah. Don't forget the milk.